I won't say what corner we're in, but we've been battling away. This is our fifth night, and it's been fantastic to see a wonderful audience and everyone pretty much turning up. There's probably a couple more that said they were coming, so they could still be on their way. Okay, but it's been fantastic so far. I'll be glad when this one's over, we can have a rest. But no matter what we do, no matter what we try to do, we do it in the best interest of ratepayers. We've just recently been called a lot of names, which really doesn't worry us too much because we know we deal in facts and get the information from the council and then disseminate it out to the ratepayers. How people take that, that's their own views. But we do one thing, make sure it's fact and truthful. These evenings we've had a totally independent platform. The candidates have drawn for their seats, and which makes it fair so that we're not lining them up in rows. Well, you are in rows, aren't you? Okay, so we're going to start off the evening with Sheridan. Where's Sheridan gone? Here she is. She's going to talk about the RSVPs, and as long as it's not RIPs.
Hello everyone. The RSVPs are a little bit complicated tonight. Just to remind everybody, because we had 32 candidates altogether, we split everyone into two groups. We had our first group of new candidates on the 4th of September. This is the second group tonight on the 15th of September. Sorry. So these are the guys that picked for the 15th of September tonight for their event. We had 3 people tonight that had said they were coming. We understand that Lani Mackie Hunt had been at a previous event that some of the other candidates have been to tonight and was on his way, so he may still be on his way now. Dana Jury had said he was coming and Jeremy Brooking had said they were coming. They're both a bit out of town, so whether they've got caught up, they may still be on their way. Of the total 32 candidates that we emailed, we have had 26 say they're coming and 6 we didn't have any confirmation, which was Sean Clare, Nigel Jones, John Woodward, EJ Barrett, Peter Mera and Bill Simpson. So we hadn't heard a reply and weren't expecting them tonight. So that's who's here and who's not here. And I will now hand over to Alex, who will go through the timing again.
Thanks. Just for you guys on here, whether it's a 2-minute or a 3-minute speech, when you have 30 seconds to go, you'll hear 1. When you've all done, that's it. Okay? So, first right, there's 3 minutes, your profiles, by me, pick me speak, and then afterwards be the questions, which you get 2-minute answers. And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome tonight's moderator, Mr. Peter Erdl, who did our first 3 but wasn't available for last week's Merrill. But it's great to welcome him back. Peter?
Thank you, Alex. Welcome everybody, especially to the candidates. The housekeeping. If there's a fire or some other event, probably staff will turn up in here and we'll follow their instructions. Cell phones, all cell phones off except mine. My wife's at home on Amazon.com trying to download Danielle Steele books onto her Kindle, and if that doesn't work, she'll be ringing me and I'll have to take that call. House rules too. Look, it's pretty tough for people to come out and put themselves forward for the roles that are available on the council, and I think we need to have the utmost respect for these people tonight. We're welcoming them here to hear what they have to say. Any heckling or other things from the back row, well, those people will be ejected. But again, let's make them feel very welcome, please, with a round of applause. As you heard, they have their seat numbers allocated in a fairly random fashion, but we'll go through sort of a 1 to 12 for them to each have an opportunity just to tell us why it is we should vote for them, what they'd like to be doing. So without further ado, for 3 minutes, I'll ask Steve Francis to join us, please.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Steve Francis, and clearly you're all going to vote number one because I got the number one up the front. I'm standing for district-wide councillor. Just a little bit about my profile. I'm basically standing for financial stewardship, deep community roots, and being very future-focused. Why would you vote for me? In terms of professional experience and especially my financial expertise, I'm a former finance director of a company of over 400 people, which I was finance director for 8 years. I'm also a former board audit chair of a international not-for-profit. I'm the ex-general manager of Sustainable Taranaki, and I'm also co-founder of Community Energy Taranaki here. So I've got all that financial experience, both at governance level and executive level. I know how to look at budgets. I know how to smell out when there's a rat or there's something that's not quite stacking up. Max is smiling already, so that's a good sign. And in terms of being those deep community roots, I'm heavily involved in a lot of the community gardens, especially the Maufau Community Garden. I'm involved in the Kaitakes doing predator trapping and involved in a lot of other community activities. In terms of being future focused, all of my work has always been about looking for the very long term. And I know at the moment the cost of living crisis, of which rates is just one aspect, is very, very important. I do think that there are lots of different ways, and I was talking to a gentleman, builder before. Most builders know that they have lots of different tools and you can use those tools for different things. Rates caps may be one tool for keeping rates under control, but I believe in value for money. I think it would be silly in this environment to cut council projects, like I think some warrant potentially being looked at again, but I think you need to look at the value for money for the community. It would be detrimental to everyone if we cut projects that actually added value to people. So you take with one hand, you give with one hand and take away more from the other. There are things that will benefit the community holistically more than others. Personally, I found that in terms of value for money, things like the Tuparakino Active Community Hub, the sports hub, I think if someone offered me $50 million to do something, I wouldn't have put all my eggs in one basket. I would have looked at that, definitely focused on a smaller budget and looked at allocating that more around the community so that it's not, we've got a lot of other communities from Okato up to Mokau and out to Inglewood that could use decentralised community services like sports hubs. I won't get onto the Tim Tams apart from saying that there's a review underway, and I do think that there'll be change, and I've lived in Europe for 20 years. I think there will be things that will come in, but it's all about how you do it. I spoke with some beautiful people a little while ago talking, and that's me for the evening. Thank you very much, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Steve. Tina Cook, and if you would also tell us which ward you're a candidate for.
I love these, they're always taller than I am. Good evening, everybody. My name is Tina Kosh. I'm standing as a district-wide councillor for New Plymouth. I'm a proud Taranaki resident, a mum of 6 and a small business owner. For the last 7 years, I've had the privilege of running the Seaside Market, a space that celebrates talent, local food, arts, creativity. It supports not-for-profit, young enterprise, schools and community groups, and it brings our community together. Through the market, I've seen the value and significance of open communication, consultations, and how small steps can lead to big gains. And an example I want to share with you is we introduced a dishwash trailer to the market to basically get rid of single-use serveware and cutlery. This has not only reduced waste, it's supported stallholders. It created a more sustainable, welcoming environment for everybody. That's the kind of thinking I want to bring to council. Practical, community-driven solutions that make a lasting difference. I'm running because I believe council need to listen more and work in genuine partnership with our people. I don't pretend to have all the answers, but what I can bring is a strong commitment to ensuring your voices are heard before decisions are made. I want to see smarter spending where essential services like water, waste and infrastructure are protected first. I believe strongly in supporting our local economy, backing small business, encouraging growth that create jobs. We need to support our youth with pathways into work, business and leadership so that they can see a future here. Because if we don't retain our young people, we lose not only their energy, their talent, but also the chance to grow us stronger as a community. As someone who's worked very hard to raise a family and build a business here, I understand resilience, accountability, and the importance of long-term thinking. I want to make sure that New Plymouth District Council decisions are not just about the next 3 years, but are about leaving a community that our tamariki, our mokopuna, can be proud of for generations to come. I bring not only the perspective of a parent and a business owner, but also the commitment to open consultation. I want everyone to feel that their decisions reflect their voices, not just council agendas. My priorities are smarter spending, protecting essential services, and making sure our district's future is affordable and sustainable. I care deeply about this district, and I would love it if you support me. Tina Kosh. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Craig Tonkin, please welcome him.
Hi there, my name is Craig Tonkin and I'm here standing for the Kaitake Ngamotu Ward. I want to change things up a little bit tonight. Normally I have almost like a spiel named, but everyone says to me, why don't I mention my father? So yes, I am Roger Tonkin's son. The reason I say that is because, to be honest, I'm really proud of the way what he's done. He worked a 40-hour week like we all did, starting at 4 o'clock in the morning on the radio, but then what was more important was what he did for the community. The school gala days, the beach days, the fundraising for the CT scanner machine, the clock tower, raising money for that. I learned from a very young age that if you live and work in a community, you support the community and you give back to the community, and that's what I want to do. So that's why I'm standing. I had several chats, long chats with my dad and with Councillor Murray Chong, and that's what made me decide I wanted to stand and make a difference. We need to look at our spending. I'm not saying I want to cut things, but we need to look at the wasteful spending and the money that's getting wasted and use that a lot more wisely. If you get quotes, you stick to those quotes. You don't have budget blowouts and that sort of thing. So that's what I'm looking at doing. If you run a business, my wife Melanie over here, she's come along tonight. We run businesses together in Hamilton, successful businesses, but you've got to look after your cents and your dollars will look after themselves. So that's what I'm standing on doing is we've got to be a lot more, not frugal, but wise with how we spend our money. Whether we're looking at rates, caps, or whatever it is that's coming along, we need to look at it, look at the facts, make a decision from there. But most important to me is I want to do what you want me to do. It doesn't matter what my opinion is. It doesn't matter what any of these guys and girls' opinions are. It's what you want. So we're going to be talking to you through Facebook, through getting out on the street, through phone calls. I want to be available to you, get your opinion, and then that's what I'll be voting on. So I haven't got a 3-minute speech made up. As you can see, I don't make notes. I just talk from the heart, and that's what I'm here to do, is to serve you, just like my dad did when I was growing up from 4 years old when we moved here. So I just, to round up, even before I get my first ding, vote 1 for Craig Tonkin, Kaitake Ngamotu Ward, and let's make this place buzz again. Be fantastic. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Craig. Please welcome Gina Blackburn.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank the New Plymouth District Ratepayers Alliance for putting this evening together for us to be able to connect with you all and to share the reasons why we think we could make a positive difference to our community here in New Plymouth. What do I bring? I bring a strong professional set of skills, a fresh energy and a collaborative approach to council. My name is Gina Blackburn and I'm standing for the North Ward for New Plymouth District Council. My background is in residential and commercial property development, where I've managed budgets, balanced competing priorities, and worked with a wide range of stakeholders to deliver projects that are on time, on budget, and add real value to the community. I know the importance of good governance, sound financial management, and making every dollar work harder, principles I would bring to my role as a councillor. I understand that ratepayers are concerned about rising costs, debt levels, and whether council spending truly reflects community priorities. These are valid concerns, and people deserve confidence that their rates are being spent wisely, transparently, and with accountability. If elected, I'll focus on 3 key commitments. First, prudent financial management, ensuring that council spending delivers clear outcomes, avoiding waste and keeping rates increases as low as possible. Secondly, our core services first, so our infrastructure that works as safe and accessible in our public spaces, that we have reliable transport and housing that meets the needs of our growing community. I also believe in working constructively with fellow councillors, council staff and community groups to make sure decisions are evidence-based and that communication back to the public is clear and honest. I believe effective governance comes from not grandstanding, but from listening, building consensus and getting things done. I'm confident in my ability to ask the tough questions, to work respectfully with those who may not always agree with me, and to keep the focus on outcomes that serve the whole district. My vision is for a council that is fiscally responsible, transparent, and responsive to its ratepayers, and a district that thrives because it has strong, balanced representation at the table. So if you want a councillor who combines professional skills with a collaborative spirit, who will champion value for money while keeping our community at the heart of every decision, I ask for your support and that you vote Gina Blackburn, number 1 for North Ward for New Plymouth District Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Gina. Please welcome Wayne Williamson.
Sorry about that, just checking you were there. Good evening. Yes, I'm Wayne Williamson, standing for council-wide New Plymouth. I was born and raised in this district, and despite working around the whole of New Zealand and overseas, New Plymouth has always been my home and the home of my family, in fact, my family for multiple generations. This election is pivotal. Ongoing double-digit above inflation council rates increases are unsustainable, as is the council's appetite for debt. We must urgently but intelligently turn this around. Both government and our community expect council to provide affordable and sustainable core services and rates. I stand to help ensure that council makes necessary adjustments to meet these expectations. And yes, our culture, arts and heritage still matter. I offer a blend of essential infrastructure, troubleshooting, change, project, operations and environmental management. And I've also operated my own private business. I've gained that experience in thermal power and other industrial processes. Oil and gas, municipal, infrastructure and rural delivery. I continue supporting rural communities, corporate and iwi water infrastructure, where I work to unite people, their facts and their ideas to develop lasting affordable solutions. I believe strongly in consulting and planning thoroughly before committing to action. For nearly 14 years, in fact, I served as NPDC Water and Wastewater Superintendent for the people of New Plymouth District, moving folks away from status quo thinking and leading improvements that endure right up to today. I understand council systems and the challenge of providing core services as budgets are squeezed. Short-changing core services is not a good option at any time. I'll be privileged to serve New Plymouth District Council again, and if you want somebody who will bring passion, common sense, fact-based, analytical, fully informed, merit-based decision-making with a heart and a sense of humour, vote Wayne Williamson. Thank you.
I nearly got a souvenir then. Damn. Thank you, Wayne. Damon Fox, please.
Hi everyone, my name is Damon Fox and I'm running in the Kaitake Ngamotu Ward with support from ACT Local. I was born and raised in New Plymouth and work at the Salvation Army as an addictions practitioner, helping some of the most vulnerable people in our community. I want to start by acknowledging the Ratepayers Alliance for the work they have done to inform voters in the face of repeated attacks and biased media reporting. How convenient it is that those who most hold our council to account are also the ones they are most morally opposed to. Now I'm standing in this election because I believe our council has become out of touch, addicted to spending and too scared to act in the interests of the entire district, instead pandering to the loudest minorities. We currently have expensive, unelected appointees with no accountability to the ratepayer, and with those who exercise their democratic right to question and query being branded as racists and worse. Now, we're going to hear a lot tonight about rates, debt and waste this evening, and rightfully so. However, if we refuse to push back on that which aims to erode the foundations of our democracy in years to come, those problems may be the least of our concerns. That said, we need to address the pressures that people are facing today. Right now, we have ratepayers being treated like ATMs, with councillors building their material legacy on the ratepayers' dime. We have events that bring genuine value and joy, such as the Winter Festival of Lights and now WOMAD being postponed, while gold-plated pet projects keep getting approved left, right and centre. Now, there's actually some big spenders that I respect. I don't agree with them, but I respect them because they're upfront about their desire to keep on spending. What I don't respect are the high-spending incumbents pretending to now be financially disciplined while aligning themselves with those who actually are. Voters deserve better. Now, why should you trust me? After all, I'm just a wannabe local politician from Spotswood who's after your vote. Perhaps something you can trust is that I've been endorsed by a party that has been fighting for the principles of financial discipline, political transparency and fair representation for over 30 years. At the end of the day, we're all just taking our best guess when we pick up our ballot paper, and with me, you have an extra level of assurance and accountability that no one else on the stage can provide. It is the decisions made at the council table where trust is earned, and I'd be absolutely honoured to have your first preference vote in order to have the opportunity to do just that. I will fight to keep rates down, cut waste, end the failed Tim Tam experiment, and protect the integrity of our democracy. Vote Damon Fox. Cheers.
Thank you, Damon. Please welcome Mark Costa to the stage.
Right, good evening. My name's Mark Costa and I'm standing for the district-wide ward. We've all done a few of these now, so you should have an idea of who we are. and the more intelligent you, even be able to work out who is actually genuine and the real deal, or who is having their word put together by AI or even Chat GTP. Technology is wonderful, but can only go so far in creating illusions of competence, and as I'm seeing it, it ultimately fails to hide limitations in both judgment and integrity. So, on that note, I've certainly found it more than interesting to see the extent to which some candidates seeking re-election have sought to both overlook and even blatantly hide some of their decision-making over the past 3 years and more. In short, it never ceases to amaze me how forgiving some people are or how short their memories are. Some examples then. December 2024, listening to a submission from Faye Looney, who had a gallery next to the Metro Plaza. Rough sleepers urinating in her doorway, along with the intimidatory behaviour. She goes to the police, and they say, go see council. She goes to the council, and they say, go see the police. I sat there and watched the disgusting indifference from around that council table. Thank you very much for your submission. Goodbye. Council was in a hurry that day, all about voting on a motion to send their own submission to the Select Committee opposing the Treaty Principles Bill. Now, I believe this was something our council should not have been involved with, certainly not on our behalf, and certainly not without even asking the wider community. Similarly, the issue of seabed mining off the South Taranaki coast. Just to be absolutely clear, this council has no jurisdiction in this matter whatsoever. It's outside our district and outside the 12-mile territorial limit. But here's the collateral damage. The news has hit a number of oil, gas and energy publications. The message is clear from them. If you were even thinking about any development and investment in New Plymouth and Taranaki, don't bother. You're not welcome. I have a lot more examples, but no time for any detail. See me afterwards if you're interested. As I've said repeatedly, New Plymouth needs a capable mayor more than ever, and backed by a consensus of thinking councillors who realise the predicament we are in, and most importantly, have the fortitude to start doing something about it. Change is coming, and I intend being part of it. Time to say enough. We just cannot carry on the way we have. It's that simple. Make it happen, New Plymouth. Mark Costa for the district-wide ward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. David Payne.
Thank you, Kevin, and the Alliance for making this forum available. It's very nice to be here. Good evening, fellow residents of the New Plymouth District. I'm David Payne, and I'm running for the Kaitake New Plymouth Ward because our community deserves bold leadership to tackle the challenges we face and unlock our true potential. We've all seen the empty shops down the CBD, Motoroa, Waitara and beyond, and they are silent symbols of a struggling local economy. This vacancy fuels widespread joblessness, leaving our youth and families without hope or stability. Rough sleepers are a heartbreaking reality on our streets amid a deepening housing crisis. And let's not forget the sky-high council rates that burden everyone, especially our baby boomers, who've given so much to this region and now face retirement in financial hardship. But I'm not here just to highlight the problems and be negative. I'm here with solutions. As your councillor, I'll push for a Port Taranaki special economic zone to attract investment, create jobs and boost trade. We'll supercharge tourism by further showcasing our fantastic gardens, world-class event facilities and mountain-to-sea outdoor adventures, drawing foreign dollars from visitors literally worldwide. I'll champion business innovations like gaming hubs and tech startups to spark new opportunities right here in New Plymouth District. This won't happen in silos. I'll drive combined efforts from NPDC, local iwi, Venture Taranaki Chamber, BARA, and to support our innovative businesses, farming sector and energy industries, turning local strengths into global exports and sustainable growth. Together we can revitalise the district, end joblessness, house our vulnerable and ease rates for all. Vote for me on election day. Let's build a prosperous New Plymouth district. Now, this is my prepared speech, but I've got a couple of notes on the back here of things that I'd like to add within my 3 minutes. Tim Tams, higher parking fees, rampant rates, disconnect from voters, symptoms of an ineffectual council. Even if you choose not to vote for me, please elect a new, strong group of people with the courage who will put everything on the line. Because this round of council is not for the faint-hearted, in my belief. Local government New Zealand, rates at the moment being used to promote the election, taking water away from local control, NPD staff who work for you, not them. These are the things we've got to deal with, and it's crunch time. And very serious matter, you have to have the bravery. David Payne, number 1, Kaitake Ngamotu Ward. Thank you.
Thank you, David. When I grew up, ladies were first, but on this occasion, Kerry Vossler to the stage, please.
So I always seem to be last, it's the name. So hello, I'm Kerry Vossler and I'm standing for the Kaitake Ngamotu Ward. And so firstly, I'd like to thank the Alliance for having all of these meetings and also for the incredible support that Costa, Vossler and Hancock have had since we started holding meetings way back in July, because we appreciate how incredibly important this election is. We've been talking to concerned ratepayers and businesses. We've had many whistleblowers come out to show us the waste that's going on in council, and we have submitted local government information requests, which has inspired my passion to follow through with my candidacy. So I believe that we need to desperately grow the New Plymouth economy, and we also need to stop the incredible waste that's going on. So I'm a third-generation business owner, and my last venture was Chaos Cafe, which I set up and ran for 20 years. We won many awards through the years, maintaining standards and passion for the industry. Now, setting up a business means investing your own money and putting in lots of extra unpaid hours into making it a success. So you appreciate your customers and you certainly respect your outgoings. You can't have a champagne lifestyle on a beer budget. You pay your staff, you pay your suppliers, you pay your taxes, you pay the bank. You understand that every dollar counts. So our council does not manage our money with this discipline. New Plymouth is in a slump. We went from the shining light in the national economy to the dimmest bulb, with a reduction in both productivity and GDP. But New Plymouth doesn't understand this, like no one is at risk of losing their homes, like no one has to choose between buying food or paying the rates. That is the reality for some of our ratepayers. A New Plymouth District Council spokesperson told Radio New Zealand that if New Plymouth ratepayers can't afford to pay their rates, they'll just have to sell their homes. An unsympathetic view from someone whose cosy salary is paid for by the very people suffering through rates increases. In a business, you cannot afford to just keep putting up prices to cover your extravagances. New Plymouth District Council holds a monopoly, and we, the ratepayers, are their captive market. Infrastructure in our district has been built and paid for in the past by many generations, and many of those suffering through rate increases have contributed very well to New Plymouth infrastructure, but are now not in the workforce. We have 1,500 people currently unable to pay their rates. Think about that. Our rates will double in 8 years at the rate of the current increase. So governance needs to come from the people. My positive attributes that I bring to council are my passion, my ability to talk and listen to a very wide range of people, and my financial acumen. My negative attributes are many, but fortunately I've run out of time. So, if you think I can bring common sense around council, please vote V for Vossler, Kaitake Ngamotu Ward. Thank you. She feels off stage.
Thank you, Kerry. Now we're going to have 2-minute answers to questions. The candidates have no idea what the questions are, and I'm busy ferreting through trying to work out the ones that I think will be the juiciest. And I'll be drawing at random who will come up first. So it will be Craig Tonkin will be first. I'll let him have the question before he arrives. How would you go about reducing the current $406 million worth of debt? Or do you think it's okay as it is?
Alrighty. Do I think it's okay as it is? Definitely not. How do we reduce it? As I said in my opening speech, I'm a strong believer that if we look at the wasteful spend, a lot of that money that we can save from the money that's wasted will go towards paying that debt down and get rid of that debt. So it's not going to be about cutting services. We need to keep infrastructure. We need to keep all the council services going, but we need to do it in a more sensible and financial way of doing it. So if we can cut the costs on money that we're wasting, either by budget blowouts or just overspending or projects that are nice to have that we can't afford to do now, we've got to get everything right first. Then once we've got the money, we can then look at the nice to have. So how will I get that cost down will be more from managing the spend correctly and not wasting the huge amounts of money that's been wasted at the moment. So that's the simple way to do it, is just like you run your budgets at home, just like you run your budgets in a business, you look at what you've got and you cut your cloth to fit. So that's as simple as it is. Stop wasteful spending and we can get back under control. Thank you.
I won't read the question every time, but I'll do one more. How would you go about reducing the current $406 million worth of debt, or do you think it's okay as it is? Damon Fox.
To answer the last part of that question, I certainly do not think it's okay how it is. So how I would get the debt down, I think Craig said, and I think it's going to be a common theme, cutting waste first and foremost. I'm seeing a lot of kind of doomsdaying, saying that people who want to cut waste also want to come for the libraries and attack any kind of public service, core infrastructure. I don't know where they got that from. It's certainly not the case. It's a bit like seeing a fire truck and thinking they're coming to change the fire alarms, never mind the burning buildings that are down the road. So cutting waste, looking through and seeing if things are really providing value, removing bureaucracy, not having staff for staff's sake. I think there's a lot there that we can do without cutting core services. But also I think we should have a look at core services. Is it providing enough for the majority, or is it not? So just having a pragmatic look, removing ideology and seeing what's going to serve us in the long run. Thanks.
Thanks, Damon. Gina Blackburn, please.
All right, I feel like the answer is going to be very similar amongst all of my fellow candidates when it comes to this one. Is $406 million of debt okay? No. And I don't know anyone who would ever say that it is. I think in terms of managing that debt and ensuring that we aren't detrimentally affecting our future generations and handicapping our children from being able to purchase and own their own homes in the future, I think that there needs to be a review of the district plan to look at the way that we project growth within our district. When we need to put in additional infrastructure to support extra housing developments, are we looking at more infill or are we looking at urban sprawl, which means that we need to increase the amount of infrastructure that we are installing, servicing and maintaining for decades to come? I also think that there needs to be a review of the long-term plan in terms of bringing it forward to look at what the current council have identified as being important 4 years ago, which we are no longer in a position to be able to afford. Things were very different before the effects of COVID and the financial crisis and the cost of living crisis hit us. And it's important that we reflect those things that have happened, they are reflected in a long-term plan that cares about our ratepayers. I think it's concerning that we have pensioners that are spending in excess of 30 to 40% of their pension on rates, and I also think it's difficult for young people to get ahead when they're already hamstrung by that kind of level of debt. So, thank you.
Thank you, Gina. Tina Kosh, please.
Oops, I'll bend it down again. I actually have to totally agree with what Gina said. In no way, shape or form is $4 million something we will look at. I personally think that we do need to look at wasteful spending, but we need to at the same time ensure that our infrastructure is core, its focus, because I don't want my children or my grandchildren suffering the debt or the forever increasing rates that we're going to have if we don't address it now. I don't think there's much more to say, and honestly, I just think we need to really look at the waste that's being spent, the nice to haves. Like Gina said, look at the long-term plan. If you've got a plan, I know for myself running a business, when COVID hit, I had a plan, it had to change. And I think that's what we need to look at. Go back to the long-term plan. Are there things in it that we can just put on hold? Because, the nice to haves at the moment are not what we need. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Francis, please.
Good question. I'm going to be a little bit more nuanced about this. I think that while the 400 million of debt is high and we can do a lot to reduce it, I do think any business owner will know that sometimes opportunities come along where you create more value than the cost of doing it, and that includes taking on debt. So a lot of us will do things around our house, increase our mortgage, and that's for valid reasons. So I wouldn't say a blanket no to increasing debt. If it made sense. And I think there'll be lots of situations where that's the case. However, there will be lots of investments that we've already made, and I've pointed out before the Tupara Kino Active Community Hub. I mean, that's not only increased our debt, but in effect, but it will increase our operating costs. And I think we need to, when anyone that's in the building industry, the property industry, you'll know that the total cost of occupancy is one of the key measures. So when we embark on projects, we don't just look at the capital expenditure, what comes up front. We need to have a look at what's going to come on for 10, 20, 30 years ahead. And that's not always done. So I think it's really, really important to do that. And on the flip side of that, sometimes there are investments we make today that may involve taking on more debt that will save us money in the longer term. So it's more of a nuanced view. If it was that simple, then I guess we'd all be doing it. And I do think we have at the same time got the Perpetual Investment Fund. Now that's all locked up, but at the moment it's a little bit offset. I do think as well that there is ways that we can cut back on some services. I mean, at the moment, Auckland City Council's talking about going from weekly rubbish collection to fortnightly, and everyone's up in arms. I think if we did maybe recycling every third week instead of every second week, that would potentially reduce costs. So there's definitely things that we can do. Take care of the pennies and the pounds will take care of themselves, bit of a colonial phrase. And sometimes you need to spend money to make money as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. Kerry Vossler, please.
Right. Definitely no to $406 million worth of debt. We have to look at ways to reduce this debt. Now, we've seen massive amounts of wastage going on at council, and a lot of the loans that council have, they've actually just rolled over and they're just paying interest only so they're not planning on paying those loans off at all, tens of millions of dollars here and there, something that we have to do. Anybody that wants their budget to work, wants to grow in the future, we have to start looking at paying down debt so that we can look at other projects down the line. There are, I don't know if you'd describe it, Len Lai, 48 staff operating in there. I believe that we can cut costs there. I think maybe that we need to start looking at Lenlai being self-sufficient. I don't believe any of the real core services, libraries, parks, playgrounds, should be closed or shuttered. I think that we need to look after them. And I'm going to be really controversial here because I believe that we should approach central government and see whether or not we can start getting some of the people that are paid weekly to do nothing to start doing something. That'll do me, thank you.
Thank you, Kerry. David Payne, please.
With huge deference to our young brigade here in the front, there are a number of people in this room who will remember when councils were actually asset-rich and had cash in reserves. There are a few councils that still have cash in reserve at the moment, but it's a rare thing. But the history proves we could do this. How do we do it? By the collective election of quality people who have got the will and guts to actually cut where it needs to be cut and solve the financial problems that exist, with advice from outside people, no doubt. But there are things going on that are completely wasteful. Membership of local government, New Zealand, sure, it's not going to save $405 million, but it's that kind of thing that we have to really look at and just say, well, this doesn't belong anymore. And but it's the collective will of the elected council that will do it. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Mark Costa, please.
So I'm lucky last. I get to agree with everything else they all said. All right. Okay. First and foremost, I don't know whether you understand this concept, forensic audit. That's when you go into an organisation and you go through everything from start to finish and you go right in deep and you find out. So that needs to happen clearly. We've seen the nonsense around the GST mistake and the rates increase. I believe there is a hell of a lot more. And the only way we're going to find that out is with that forensic audit. Next step is some of our current projects. Again, we can't find it until we actually get it over the line, but I'd like to look at the contractual arrangement of some of those, whether we can put them off, put them on hold, or whatever. That is another option in terms of spending money. Clearly, as someone else has said, it's not just the cost of the project, it's the ongoing running of these projects. There is an associated cost. Right, some of the walkway extensions between, like I said, Bell Block and Waitara, NCTA has set down some criteria. There are some aspects around the gold plating or the route we can perhaps seriously look at. Many of you will not know, for instance, about the existing bridge built in 2008 over the Waionga River. There is already a bridge there. But we have been, as someone else has suggested, forced into considering other alternatives for various reasons, instead of going right across the coast and going across the airport. Need to stop doing that. The 10-year plan. Now, there's $1 billion worth of infrastructure being planned as part of the 10-year plan. That is all infrastructure. That is something we have put off for a long, long time. Now, the 10-year plan, a new council around the table, we can look at reviewing aspects of it. But clearly, we need to start looking at the current debt we've got and reducing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Wayne Williamson, please.
$406 million. It's a lot, eh? Yes, I would say it's too much. As for cutting it or paying it off, well, let's first of all understand what our current payment options are in terms of what are we already paying down, what's the schedule for paying it down. If not, then we need to develop a schedule. Secondly, reducing costs. We don't necessarily have to reduce services to reduce costs. I know that from personal experience working in the council. There are always ways you can find by empowering your people, employing new technologies and so forth to reduce your operational costs. That won't have changed. There are always opportunities for that. There is waste, plenty of waste. There are wasteful decisions and practices that need to be examined, so we need to audit all of our budgets, understand what it's being spent on in detail. We need to identify what money is being spent productively. We keep that. What is not being done productively, we need to look at the options for reducing it. If the non-productive activity is to do with staff, well then we need to look at whether or not we can reallocate work for staff, or whether in fact we have to take the hard decisions. 10-year plan, well that's the key to a lot of it. There's a lot of wasteful project in the 10-year plan. There's a lot of stuff, I agree with what's been said, that may no longer be valid. So that's obviously something we need to rapidly review and eliminate big spends. We need to look at some big wins, and Len Lai is a case in point. I had to get that in, thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. The next question. What experience do you have with infrastructure projects and contractor management? And are you up to speed with the selective contractor processes used by the NPDC? First cab off the rank, David Payne.
No, I'm not up to speed with the processes they use. That's not my area at all. In terms of infrastructure spending and contracting, my belief is that the council are there for governance, not management of projects. So our role is to look at the facts and figures presented and make a decision about those on what we know, not whether we are an expert in project management or not. It's quite a different thing to read a presentation paper, a contract or anything like that, to running those contracts. And council don't run them. They have to have the ability to ascertain what those figures mean and whether they're real or not. I do have experience in reading budgets, and I remember one particular accountant we had in a company that I was running produced wonderful looking budgets, but they weren't real. You had to read into them to understand where they were not real, and I do have that ability. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Costa, please.
All right. So I have a background in system, process and legislative compliance. Relevant, especially when it comes to understanding the Local Government Act and the Resource Management Act. Before my unduly retirement, I spent 15 years working for oil companies in Southeast Asia. My job primarily is on a drilling rig, negotiating the contracts between production and drilling and completions. Also, once we get set up, the bridging document, also the contracts between us and our supply boats, which bring out all our food, fuel and supplies, plus all the third-party people on board. So most of these campaigns, 1 or 2 wells, they're $15 million wells. So again, we are fairly cutthroat and ruthless. We know what we want, and we go out, we make sure it happens, and it's not hard. Contracts, I would dearly love to have a close look at some of these council ones. We all know about the blowout at the thermal dryer. Again, that project initially $43 million. They got $37 million of that from the government. But since then, 10, 20, 30, 40 and above $1 million blowouts. And in any other contract, I've got some experts sitting here, like Mr. Henson, for instance, they can tell you that there's normally a fallback on the guy who's doing the work. If he's not doing it on time or up to grade, again, the fallback comes on him. But we don't have that in council. Basic contract management. Something is broken down seriously somewhere, and we need to have a look at it.
Thank you, Mark. Kerry Vossler, please.
So the quick answer is no, I don't have any knowledge of these large contracts, but I do understand that when you have a project, you have a plan, and the concept is that plan needs to be 70-80% completed for anybody to actually start paying on that contract. And I will just hark on the thermal dryer that Mark has talked about, that only 30% of the plan was completed when it went out for costing. So when you don't know what's happening for 70% of the plan, how can you budget it? So council should never ever have that. I think I'm cutting out here. Am I cutting out occasionally? Yeah. Okay. So governance over all of that. So you have to be presented with the entirety of the plan within reason. Obviously, there'll be a few contingencies and whatnot, but 30% of a plan, especially when you're talking multi-millions of ratepayers' money, there's something seriously going wrong with council governance there. Thank you.
Thanks, Kerry. Wayne Williamson, please.
Yeah, you hit it on the head, Kerry. It's absolutely staggering to hear that. I deal with contracts on a regular basis these days. I have dealt with contracts within the council. I have dealt with the thermal dryer as a matter of interest because it was my baby, the current one. Contracts typically go awry and blow out because they're not properly specified up front. The homework hasn't been done and people have rushed in. Another concern that I have is where the contract itself and its preparation is contracted out to a consultant. There is room for mistake, oversight and abuse in that situation. Perhaps I should hold off on the abuse, but there's plenty of room for error in that situation. And when councils get a bit short of resource, that is an issue. It's something that there does need to be much better oversight of, because we are, you can end up with millions of dollars, as we have with the thermal dryer, of blowouts, and never understand it. Well, it's absolutely imperative that when we have these blowouts, we take the time at council level too to understand why we need that detail, we need to go into it. And if we don't learn from it, we make the same mistake all over again, and our debt problem and our rates problem simply compounds. So it comes down to our contracting processes. That needs to be actually, and I think it's been agreed, that needs to be overhauled in the council. Okay, so that needs to be followed through on with some degree of urgency, because we can't keep having these blowouts because we're not preparing our contracts properly. It's as simple as that, really, because you end up playing the variation game if you don't with contractors.
Thank you, Wayne. I'll read the question again. What experience do you have with infrastructure projects and contractor management? And are you up to speed with the selective contractor process used by the NPDC? Please welcome Gina Blackburn.
What experience do I bring to contract management and infrastructure work? So I currently work in the residential and commercial property space, and for the last 3 years have worked alongside the delivery of Te Ara Tūtohu safety traffic improvements between Waitara and Bell Block, and also from New Plymouth through to Egmont Village. Through that work, I've been able to see how central government works their contract processes, how they develop their methodologies, how they apportion cost versus methodology versus community outcomes and cultural and social outcomes as well. So within all of the complexity that occurs within that contracting process, the most important thing I think needs to be focused on is that we have dotted our I's and crossed our T's and ensured that when it comes to variations of contract that we're really specific and analytical in terms of what that means for the outcome. So when we set prices, we provide as much information as we can so that the variation coming back from contractors is reduced. It's, in my view, fairly simple. And just a practical common sense way to approach contracting. And I think that if we were to improve that within council, it would come back to a lot of internal upskilling within the team and ensuring that the right people are in the right places, and that when things like restructures happen, that you retain the core skills that you require to be able to deliver that role well. In terms of the procurement policy that council have at the moment, I'm very familiar with how that operates. And what I'm interested in is when you have large-scale contracts, breaking them down into smaller portions so that you're able to offer them to more local contractors. I believe that there should be equity amongst the council work program, and that includes everyone in our community. Kia ora.
Thank you, Gina. Steve Francis, please.
Quite simply, yes, I've experience in project management, both at executive and at governance level. I was involved, I'm a former external auditor for KPMG, so I spent 4.5 years doing that, so reviewing projects from an external audit point of view. I've also been involved in a bespoke ship build for $40 million, which I followed from a governance point of view, and was on a steering committee for a significant IT project in a company in Europe. So I've got experience in that. I do believe that you do need to have experience at either government's executive or governance level to be able to do that on council. I think it's naive to think that you can just go in there and be able to ask the right questions without having that experience. There is an element of common sense, but there's also an element of having seen things before. I think that these projects do need to be followed, and I think that a lot of the issues happen at the scope stage, yeah? When you decide what the budget is and what the scope is, and you need to get it really, really sharp. I was discussing with council staff today a project that's on nobody's radar about relocalising organic waste management. That project, I think, will create value and employment here locally. Does everyone know where their organic waste goes at the moment? 300 k's up the road to Hampton Downs. So if we relocalise that, we could create a whole economy here. At the moment, that's out of council's hands. It's being dealt with by South Taranaki District Council, and I'm probably more than capable of dealing with it, but that needs to be brought in-house, and the scope needs to be defined, and the current councillors haven't asked the question about that. They're unaware of where it's going. There hasn't been any update for quite some time, I don't think, Max. There's quite a lot, but there has not been any clear scope given from the local council that I know for fact. So I think it's a good time to ask difficult questions about scope. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. We won't touch on what goes to Bonnie Glen in terms of our waste as well. Tina Koch, please.
Well, I'll be completely honest. No, I haven't. I haven't had the experience with that. What I do know from my own perspective is when working in the business, when I started to look at my plan for having a dishwash trailer, I knew nothing about building. I knew nothing about plumbing. I knew nothing about the electrics of it. And so I learnt the term scope. I sat down, figured out what budget did I have, what did I need, how long was it going to take. If I didn't have the information, I was calling on friends and family and other businesses, going up and saying, help me, tell me, so that I know what I'm looking for. None of us are going to have all the answers, and we'd be silly to say we do. But I think the one thing I would say was honestly put my hand up and go, no, I don't know, but I want to learn. And I definitely don't want to blow out. Because I know myself, when I was building this dishwash trailer, I was first initially told, oh, it'll cost you about 30,000. And I was like, oh, okay, that's nice. Spoke to other people, 60, 70, and it started to grow. So I had to put the brakes on and start looking at the tiny little aspects and going, how do we make this? How do we make this successful, but economical and cost efficient? So in answer to those questions, no, I don't, but I am happy to learn and I am happy to ask questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Craig Tonkin, please.
A lot of what I'm going to say has already been said, but do I have the knowledge? Again, no, I don't. But what I do have is my work from when I was working for Motorcycling New Zealand, which is the governing body of motorsport, and working in my own business and just buying and selling houses and properties, and that is contracts. And that's the main thing, as others have said. You need to look at the contract, look at what's happening, and if you don't know about something, that's the beauty of the councillors and the council, is there will be other councillors on board that do know. We all have our strengths and we all have our weaknesses. So as a group, we talk about what we need and we talk about how it's getting done. But as everyone have said, we just need to keep a grip on it, make sure it doesn't get out of hand and the blowouts and that sort of thing doesn't happen. But if we don't know, there will be someone in the councillors or in council that does know. That's the beauty of governance over the management, is we decide with your input what happens, and then we put it to the council to make sure that happens, and we keep a track on that. If they get out of line, we bring them back in. So we don't all have to personally know the answers to everything. There's a whole lot of people out there that do know, and we just need to tap them on the shoulder and ask them. I'm as frugal with dollars as I am with time, and you'll notice I haven't had the bell, so I'll leave it at that, and we'll keep going. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your attention, and thanks to our candidates for their answers so far. We're going to give a 5-minute break so they can have a drink of water, and if people want to have a bit of a walk around, we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Did I leave Damon out?
Yeah.
Stay there, don't go. Damon Fox. Thank you. I had you down as number 4.
Oh, I thought you were giving me 5 minutes to go away and think about my answer. So yeah, I think as many have said, council requires a variation of skills, and core infrastructure, contract management, if I recall correctly, certainly is not one of mine. I'll be blunt about that. What I do know, what my bread and butter is, I work with people day in, day out on a very deep level. So what that means is I can smell BS. So if I get a sense that something is going to blow out, something hasn't been covered, charismatic salesman comes in and everyone else is very impressed, I'm going to be going, hold on, I'm going to see the red flags and I'm going to look to, find the information. I'm going to consult with fellow councillors if I am successful and they are successful. I think Mark and Steve, I quite like their answers. They're not running in the same water as me, so I can say that. And if not, then I will look externally and do my research and endeavour to learn. I think that's the best anyone can do in that circumstance. Thank you. Let's hydrate.
What I said before, we'll take a 5-minute break. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you coming back. So now we've got 2-minute questions again. We'll just go as best we can, time permitting. And again, the order will be as it is. Mark Costa will be first up. This next question is, how effective do you think Venture Taranaki is? If you think it is, why? And if you think it isn't, what would you do differently?
All right. So, does everybody understand what Venture Taranaki actually does? Right. Was that a yes or a no? Anyway, okay. Right, Venture Taranaki is sponsored essentially by council to encourage business and new ventures to ideally promote and bring more work to New Plymouth. Now, they have, unfortunately, in recent times, this is my view, have become involved in issues and ventures which I don't think have a substantial payback for the community. Given the current economic downturn, I would certainly like to see the direction of Venture Taranaki changed. I think they could be directly involved in assisting existing businesses and encouraging and developing mechanisms to increase the efficiency and the growth of those businesses, especially in the current economic climate. Debbie has spoken at length of where they're currently situated. There is a spare floor above the council building, and we've suggested a number of times that Venture Taranaki be moved into that spare floor at council and save us, the ratepayers, some money instead of being where they are. That's an obvious one for a start. All right. Now, the city itself, I think Venture Taranaki could be involved in developing our city. It is dying slowly, we can see that. And there's lots of opportunities to increase that. Increase the involvement of Venture Taranaki, develop, big cities around the world. And I've been to a few. Am I finished with it? No. Oh, thank you very much. Was that one bell or ding? Two dings. Okay, rightio, thank you very much. Right, so, yes. Now, I've done a lot of travelling, so I've been to some big cities in the world. And cities change and evolve. Now, New Plymouth has been mostly retail. That focus needs to change. And I believe Venture Taranaki could be involved in changing that focus. Accommodation. People live in the cities now. It's not all about retail. We go out to the valley now when we do our shopping. We don't normally go into town. For a start, I didn't even get a makeup. Yeah.
Thanks, Mark. Question again, so it gets embedded in minds. How effective do you think Venture Taranaki is? If you think it is, why? If you think it isn't, what would you do differently? Steve Francis.
Thank you. Great question. Jein, as the Germans say, yes and no. I'm not sure how effective they are. I think the remit that they've given could be altered to create more value. Their remit, as I understand it, is export focused, so export not just overseas but outside of region. I think if MPDC have the power to change the remit of Venture Taranaki, and I think if they encourage them to focus at least a decent chunk of their work on creating and stimulating more the local economy, then I think that would be a great thing. Whether that's around localising renewable energy here, localising waste management, there's a lot of things that we send out of the province. I think some of the branching out project that they're working on at the moment is good. Sometimes I think it's a little bit too much into the research and the pie in the sky stuff, and maybe bringing it back to some of the basics. There's some basic technologies that just work here and we don't have in the province. We've got, from an energy point of view, from a food and fibre point of view, we've got tons of advantages here. Let's focus on our local economy. Just to mirror that, if you look at the Chinese economy, it focused a lot on export originally, and their great force now is that they're focusing on their internal economy, and I think that that's how we can do it. And I'm an environmentalist as well, and I think from an environmental point of view, that economy and environment do go hand in hand. We can save money and save the environment at the same time. So I think it's a redirection from them, and MPDC have got all the cards in hand. And Max is nodding again. Thanks, Max.
Thank you, Steve. Tina Kosh, please.
I like bending this. I've had quite a bit to do with Venture Taranaki with running the seaside market, and I've actually found them quite effective in their support for the local businesses that I work with, particularly over the last couple of years with the cruise ships that have been coming into port. So we were able to run basically cruise markets in the middle of the CBD, which I had a lot of support from local businesses within the CBD saying how it was great to have the market there, as it was bringing a point of difference, it was bringing vibrancy, something different. The people on the cruise ships absolutely loved it. So I think it's really important that we do liaise with Venture Taranaki, but from a ground level. So getting Venture Taranaki to look at us locally, look at the businesses, just like Steve said, we need to also be looking at things like our environment, food that's grown here, fibre that's grown here, how we can actually build from here, not just outside the region. Yes, of course, we do need to bring more things into the region, businesses, technology, a lot of things. But I think what we need to do is really start ground roots level and keep that communication going with Venture Taranaki. Personally, love the idea of moving Venture Taranaki into the council building. Great way to save us some money and have things centralised once again instead of bits and pieces all over the place. But I think it does come down to getting local businesses, ratepayers, first time I've had a bell, to talk and say, what do we need? What can we see? How can we build? We've all got so many great ideas. Let's just get them together and talk to Venture Taranaki about it. So, thank you.
Thanks, Tina. Wayne Williamson, please.
Right, I've been rapidly making notes, now I can't read them. So, here we go. Okay, one of the things we just talked about is Venture Taranaki promoting things outside the region effectively. And I'd really like to see them able to focus on drawing major enterprises into the district to provide major employment. Renewable energy comes to mind. There are a number of industrial situations we have at the moment that may be closing down. There will be opportunities there, and I'd love to see them getting in early and starting to curry up interest and options for potentially drawing people into the area, because we need some major employment to replace the oil and gas that's dying on us. As far as the smaller stuff, there's heaps of room to move on that one. I'm really keen on the idea of encouraging the growth and expansion of community gardens throughout the district. And I'd love to see that pushed harder. I agree with the idea that people need to get together or be drawn together. And I believe if it's not already happening, then regular workshops with the community, inviting people to bring their ideas, coordinate those ideas and put them into practice. But involve the outer communities, Waitara, Inglewood, Okato. Make sure that they're actually getting supported too. They can contribute. Anyway, I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Damon Fox, please.
So whether they're effective or not, I think that's incredibly subjective. I haven't heard anyone say they're the most amazing thing around, and I haven't heard anyone say they're the worst thing around. Research I've done online is kind of the same, left me, I suppose, indifferent. I guess to speak to the larger topic around business, which has been touched on, is I believe in the free market, and I don't think we should be social engineering business in order to keep them alive, particularly around retail. A lot of stuff's going online, and I don't think that's something to fight. I think that's something that we've got to embrace. And ultimately, the best thing for business is if people have money, they'll spend it, right? If we bring the rates down, if we cut out the waste, people are going to be more likely to spend their money. Admittedly, I certainly wasn't built with certainly didn't come with a silver spoon in my mouth. And, many years ago, a way to get things for cheap, I'd go into a shop, I'd try it on, a pair of shoes, whatever, and then I'd go online because the websites would come with like a 15% off discount. And that was just me as a young man with limited resources doing the best that I could. Fortunately, I'm in a different position now. I don't need to do that. I can choose to support local business, which I do. However, the reality is things are going online. So rather than deny that and become dinosaurs, we need to work alongside that. Cheers.
Thank you, Damon. David Payne, please.
I guess the truth is we only know what we know, and my experience with Venture Taranaki is that they've been really good. Now, sure, they may need trimming, and certainly as a council organisation they need to be reviewed. So I go that far, but beyond that I don't have an opinion about them other than that they've been good as far as we're concerned. I'm going to take the opportunity, the Len Lai was mentioned before, and I want to declare my position, which is that I think that's the most, probably one of the most amazing art facilities in the world. However, I think they need a commercial director so they can become self-funding and self-sustaining. And that kind of attitude might also run over the top of Venture Taranaki. So rather than social engineering, I see them as being a support mechanism for small businesses particularly, and they've been, so far as I've seen, pretty good. Similarly with Len Lai.
Thank you, David. Craig Tonkin, please.
Now I can see why they took the signs away so we can walk down there and it's easy to get through. What I'm going to say pretty much has been already said to most people here, but it's hard out there. I mean, we're not the only region, the only council that's having this problem. Every single city, region, council in New Zealand is having the same issue, and they're coming up with the same things. They're trying to get people into the areas too. So what we need to do, as you were saying, Damon, yes, the retail's online. I manage a retail store here in town, and it's hard. We get people coming in wanting to look at stuff and then go, oh, well, I can get it cheaper online. And I just say to them, yeah, you can. But the thing is, you don't get the support, you don't get the backup. And if something goes wrong, you've got to post it back to China. You can't come back and see me and get it sorted. So how does that tie into what we're saying? Yep, they're doing a good job, but we've just got to get people coming in here. The fantastic thing, the thing I love most about Taranaki is also the thing I hate most about it. It's a destination. You have to want to go there. If you're in Hamilton, you're just up the road to Auckland, or you're just over the road to Tauranga. You can just pop wherever you want. But here, you've got to want to come here. And that's the fantastic thing about it. But it's also the worst because people can't stop here on their way to Wellington or whatever. So we have to get them to want to come here and spend their money. The cruise ships, the ideas behind that, the market's fantastic. But yeah, we just have to get people to come here. But first and foremost, we need to look after the local businesses, the retail stores in town. Yep, we're going online, but you can't beat bricks and mortar. You can't beat coming in, having a look at the new Christmas toys range coming out now. So there's my first bell for the night, so I better not get a second one. But that's where I stand, that yeah, we just need to get people coming here and get business turning over. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Kerry Vossler, please.
Right, so my understanding of Venture Taranaki is that it's paid for by or sponsored by the New Plymouth District Council, and my concept of it is that they are meant to be supporting businesses and bringing business into New Plymouth. This is what I would like to see if they're not doing it. Personally, all of the years that I ran Chaos, I never had anybody from Venture Taranaki approach me. I think that we've got an awful lot of great business entrepreneurs. I'm cutting out again. And I think it would be really good if Venture Taranaki could actually start bringing people together and start getting ideas. I mean, from ideas you get growth. We need to look at getting more businesses to New. to Taranaki, and that's where maybe Venture Taranaki could go out to other cities and start seeing what they could bring to our economy. And also to make sure that procurement is kept within local businesses and not go out of town, because we've got to support local and support the local economy. Thank you.
I said at another meeting I wasn't standing for council, and I'm still not. But why can't we make this place the e-games capital of New Zealand and bring all those young people with their families in here? And that's an online thing, but to see them in person competing, it's bigger than the Olympics. It's huge. We're ignoring the young people. We've got all these old ideas. What about some young ideas? And that's enough for me already. So, Gina Blackburn, please.
Venture Taranaki. I think as a regional development agency, Venture Taranaki punches above its weight in comparison to other places around New Zealand. I think the roadmap to 2050 Tapu Wairoa provides a really clear example of how ambitious our regional development agency is in terms of our transition from oil and gas. That's going to pose significant challenges to us as a community. We've been reliant on them for decades. So to be able to see a roadmap which illustrates transitions for how we're going to bring in new money into our economy, how we're going to stimulate the local community to be able to connect more and thrive more. We're looking to develop more industry and diversify our agricultural offerings and horticultural offerings. I think that in terms of what Venture Taranaki does behind the scenes that people don't see is the things that are going to be most impactful for future generations coming into Taranaki. And that's about it. I don't even need one bell.
Thanks, Gina. Next question. What is your understanding of the impact of climate change on you, Plymouth? And how do you think this should be addressed by the NPDC? Craig Tonkin.
I'm first again. The effect of climate change, it's whether you believe it's man-made or natural, the fact is it's happening. But I don't think as a council we can say this is what's going to happen through your insurances or that sort of thing. There's still the right for people to have the properties where they want them. But we do need to be serious and think, things could happen. We've got a very large mountain that could erupt. We've got tsunamis that could come in. So we have to be prepared, but we can't sit there and go, this is, you're going to lose your property or we're not going to let you insure your property. At the end of the day, it's people's right to live where they want to live. So it's actually a really hard one for me to answer, but it is something we need to look at. But yeah, it's going to take a lot more research into other than just saying, well, you can't get insurance in your place now, sorry, because that land's been put aside for something else, or it's too close to the sea, or it's too close to a cliff. People have to make up their own decisions in their own minds when they're buying and selling property. So yeah, I believe in the right for private ownership there, and people need to take responsibility, as well as the council needs to look at plans. If there are things you can do to save it, then great. But we can't come in with an iron fist and say, this is what you're going to do. Again, it's up to you people. Simple. Thank you.
And again, the question, just to reinforce it for people, what is your understanding of the impact of climate change on you, Plymouth, and how do you think it should be addressed by NPDC? Tina Koch, please.
Climate change, well, yes, it's here. We've seen the destruction that it's caused across the other side of the island, and we do live very coastal. Of course, we do have a mountain, we do have rivers, and so there are a lot of areas that are going to be subject to, if we do have that 1 in 200 year events, there are a lot of homes and businesses that could be strongly impacted. I personally feel that, and I have heard not sure on all the information, but I have heard that the council do have some sort of plans of the region which are, oh, I'm getting a nod over there. So, yep, I have heard right. That there is a plan that actually indicates where some of those areas may be at higher risk. And I think as a homeowner myself, I would love that information. Yes, it's going to be my choice if I want to move or how I can protect my home and my land. But I think making that sort of thing public so that all of New Plymouth, all of Taranaki are aware of where they're purchasing or where they're living and the potential impact that climate change might have. Thank you.
Thanks, Tina. Damon Fox, please.
So that's very specific impact of climate change on New Plymouth. I don't think anyone can stand up here and say this particular hurricane or this particular flood was the impact of climate change. It may raise the likelihood of that, but I think it's ideological when we put too much weight into that. Look, I think if there's two plans with a similar outcome or the same outcome and they cost the same, one's greener than the other, then go for that. Why wouldn't we, right? However, we're hurting now. Right, we hear a lot about the impact on the future generations. What's not spoken about is the intergenerational impact of having less finances, of the stress that comes with that. That's palpable. There's no arguments around that. So I think, to put ourselves further into debt just to virtue signal and say how green I am without the adequate, rationale behind that, I think is silly, and I do think we see a lot of that going on. That being said, I do think we should be investing in, things that are going to help, flood banks, things that are going to help regardless, regardless if you think about climate change, just, emergencies happen, disasters happen, and we need to be prepared for that by investing in what I said and definitely not restricting the movement of our emergency services, which is another topic everyone's heard about, involves a biscuit name, but I'll leave it at that. Cheers.
Thanks, Damon. David Payne, please.
Popular or unpopular or not, climate change is a hoax. And praise the Lord. Thank you. And so we should stop treating it as a disaster zone. The irony of the exercise over on the East Coast was that the forestry caused it, caused the damage. The rain fell and so on. That's a fact. That's been going on for thousands of years. But we changed the things up in the hills. Now, what are we doing here in the same context? Not a lot. There's not a lot that we are doing. The irony really is that the so-called effect of climate change that you see as a disaster has been caused by poor town planning. So houses have been allowed to be built in places they shouldn't be. And stop banks at the Waitara River there, good planning, good thing to do. That just makes common sense. It's not because, climate change became a thing like 5 or 10 years ago. They were built many years ago. I don't remember when the first ones were done, but 30 or 40, 50 years ago. So let's be sensible about it. Don't treat it as a disaster waiting for happen, but plan for the odd disaster that could happen. But let's not spend a whole lot of money on that right now. Prepare, but don't overinvest in it. It's not a real thing.
Kerry Vossler, please.
Right, well, I'm with him, actually. Climate has been changing for eons, and we are actually just a little pimple on the backside of time, quite frankly, mankind. We can mitigate some of the issues. We can dredge silted up rivers. We don't build houses on top of cliffs or underneath cliffs. They're always going to be issues with things like that. A perfect example is my brother bought Payne's nursery, actually, in Owakura many years ago and moved a house on. And council told him to build his house at a point above the 20-year floodplain. I don't think 20 years is enough when you're planning on a house that you want to last many decades. The other thing too that council needs to ensure, because there's lots and lots of apartments and things being built these days, and there's no bare ground, everything's being concreted, and concrete doesn't absorb water, it causes runoff. So we need to make sure that was an issue many years ago with council, that you weren't allowed to concrete more than a certain part of your property, and now they just concrete everything. So we need to make sure that that's not allowed to happen, and that drains and rivers are kept clear, and let's just put up with it, the fact that occasionally we're going to have a natural disaster.
Thank you, Kerry. Gina Blackburn.
This question actually hits really close to home for me as someone who grew up in Waitara and is from Urenui in our Northern Hill Country. I recently read a report outlining the impacts of climate change on our community within the next 50 years, and it makes for really scary reading. Waitara has the highest risk analysis in terms of what the effect of climate change will have on our community, and it will effectively mean that many people living in their homes in Waitara won't be able to live there anymore. And these are people who have lived there for upwards of 50 to 60 years. That's a really scary reality that I think isn't shared enough, and it's a publicly available report. You can go onto the council website and you can read for yourselves exactly what the report outlines. But I think again it comes down to poor planning, which has been touched on by some of my fellow candidates, and the fact that we as people have changed some of the land use of different areas. So we've changed wetlands to pasture. We've intensified our footprint on the land to make sure that we've got lots of concrete and lots of tall buildings. So all of these things, whether or not it's climate change or whatever, these are things that have a direct impact on how we're able to survive, thrive, and experience normal occurring storm systems that roll through our community. In terms of resilience, I think there's a lot more that council could do in terms of planning to support communities to respond to and provide more adequate aid to people that are experiencing challenges that come with big storm events and climate change. And just in my own lifetime, I've witnessed at least 50 metres of beachfront property be eroded, which means that now people who never thought that they would have a beachfront property have the sea lapping right at their front doorstep and can no longer live in those homes. So I think there's a lot of things that we can do as council to support and protect the place that we love. Thank you.
Thank you, Gina. Wayne Williamson, please.
Yes. Waitara is a good case in point, actually. The impact of climate change, not climate change itself, but climate change response, is already happening for people in Waitara. They can't get insurance for their homes for flood. One of the issues that I see with that, based on people I've talked with there, is that insurance companies are applying generic interpretations of the risk. So what the council can do there to help people avoid less stress and less harmful, let's call it, response from insurance companies, and to push back, is to make sure that accurate risk assessment information for the risks for the properties concerned, and all properties for that matter, is available in the council records, the property records. So that's point one. Climate change itself, in reality, statements here have been correct. It's a modern day Y2K event. It's got a benefit that it may cause us to focus on what impacts we are having and what we can do. But climate itself is changing all the time, as was said. I think we do need to look at district plans and go through our property use and identify where runoff can be better controlled, because that actually is the issue. And the other issue, of course, is, again, basic maintenance, stormwater drainage. Stormwater flooding is probably a bigger issue in most places.
Thank you, Wayne. Steve Francis, please.
Thank you very much. Climate change, the research is out there. It's a thing that's happening. The only question really is what can we do to mitigate its impact, and what can we do as well to reduce it and adapt to it. So I think it's definitely there. I mean, you can debate the research, but you know the facts are all there, and I think most of the people in this room believe in fact-based decisions. Hopefully future councillors do. So for me, definitely urbanisation has had an impact and has accentuated the effects of climate change, and we need to work in the other direction. So that's, okay, it's putting up stop banks, but it's also stopping people from making decisions that they can't really afford to make. I don't agree that we should just let people build in areas where it's going to be ultimately detrimental for them. There are stories about, and these are the most vulnerable people. If a house is in a flooding zone, then it's going to be cheaper, and the people that can't afford to buy it will buy it. And unfortunately, I don't believe in just survival of the fittest and leaving those people to suffer, because ultimately our community will pay for that one way or another. I do think that there are lots of things that we can do to mitigate it, and we should be preparing for those events. Our neighbouring regions have already suffered from this. We need to be empowering marae and iwi and hapu, and we need to be empowering our community halls, getting solar installations on them, making sure that they've got solutions so that when the disaster does happen, as it has happened all around the country in the last decade, that we're ready for it. And we need to be ready for it for things that we haven't seen before, because they are coming. I've lived in the Northern Hemisphere as well, and things are coming more regularly and they're more extreme. So I think we just need to be ready for it. If we don't spend money now, it's going to cost us more in the long term. And I know that the Ratepayers Association are all in favour of saving long-term rates. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Mark Costa, please.
Right, so this is my academic point of interest. I can wax lyrical about the change between the Pleistocene geological period and the Holocene period which we're in now, and the last interglaciation being 11,000 years ago. As people have said, climate change has been a constant. It will always happen. But here it goes. There is some science behind it, and there is vested interest for other people to be pushing a particular narrative. I can remember, for instance, years ago, peak oil being a problem. And again, we were all going to run out of oil and the world's going to come to a crash. I can remember growing up in the 80s and being told about acid rain. Acid rain was going to come down and destroy all the world's crops, and hey, we're all going to descend into being poor, and the world's going to collapse. But here we go. As you know, every day the sun comes up and the sun goes down. Now, the aspect which we need to start focusing on the things we can control. No matter what we do, we aren't going to control and lower the temperature of the world by 1% to 2%. Paying money to the Kyoto Protocol or the Paris Accord ain't going to do, excuse my language, jack shit. But here it goes, it happens. It ain't going to happen. But we need to control the things we can control. And rivers are going to flood. And as people have said before, no, stupidity. Don't build a house in a floodplain. As Kerry said, you don't need to build a house overlooking a cliff. We can start developing our stop banks. We've got a radial drainage pattern in our mountain. We need to start obviously building better stop banks on our most heavily prone silted rivers like the Waitara River. And again, probably some of our northern rivers like the Uriti and Uranui. Just common sense. At the end of the day, it's not something to be all freaked out about. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Next question. Do you have Ideas on how to offer arts and culture in New Plymouth on a break-even basis. And sharing it around, Wayne Williamson, please.
On a break-even basis. Right. That's an interesting one. I think the way to do that would be in meeting the need of a lot of the local artists at the moment. I mean, I don't see them displaying their wares, their art at Len Lai terribly much, for instance, which would be something that should be being investigated. But in the absence of that, then it would be conceivable we could run a break-even facility whereby the local artists could display their art and make a small charge for it, enough to cover the costs. So I have two granddaughters who are in that situation. They're very good artists, painters. They display in Stratford and places further afield rather than New Plymouth because we don't have anything here that suits them. So I don't have any real answers for that other than the suggestion that perhaps cheaper, less expensive to operate facilities would actually enable that sort of thing to exist. And I'm pretty sure that if people who were able to display their local art here and it was advertised and supported, thank you, would attract other people to come. It would get support because there are people wanting to see this local art, just the same as they want to support other local activities. Anyway, that's about all I've got to say usefully.
Thank you, Wayne. And as has become practice, the question again, do you have any ideas on how to offer arts and culture in New Plymouth on a break-even basis? Mark Costa, please.
Break even. Yeah, so again, the obvious one, which we've been talking about early on, is Len Lai. Now, what some of you may not realise is how that was set up and how the trust was linked to the Cavett Brewster Art Gallery. Now, I'm reliably informed that deep in the archives or the bowels of one of these two places, there's $50 million worth of art, which is archived in that collection. Now, it sounds uncharitable, but paying their own way. Some of that art could be dug out, I believe, and again, rotate around some of the other art galleries in the country and start bringing in some income. Or heaven forbid, I know people will screech and yell, sell some of it. Sorry about that. Again, if it's been sitting there for 100 odd years and just gathering dust, sell it. Obvious one. Culture, something more pervasive. Again, I can remember some years ago, we're talking about culture, the Bowl of Brooklands. We had a promoter who worked through the council, said, I can't remember his name offhand, he passed away some years ago, but he was organised sufficiently and we had lots of different acts and entertainers come through that facility, the Bowl of Brooklands. The concerts we had here and the people who were coming to this town, absolutely brilliant. Again, we cannot rely on the likes of WOMAD or Americana. These are run privately. But there's certainly considerable realm to find some decent promotion and use our existing facilities. Is that a double ring again? Thanks. Picking on me. Yeah. Again, the cultural aspect, I can remember right back when the likes of the Magog Motorcycle Club, heaven forbid, used to organise a bike show here, and it used to bring a lot of people from outside the district. Certainly considerable realm to utilise what we've already got and the people we've already got. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Craig Tonkin, please.
Starting to get used to this. I've got to agree with a lot of what Mark was saying, shocker. It's user pays as well. It's not about putting on something free for the artist to display their artwork or for the musicians to play their music. It's got to be a partnership between the both. So to break even, it needs to be exactly that. They pay something to put their art up and display somewhere so people can see it and potentially buy it. I've spoken to a few artists and they're all like, oh, we should have somewhere we can put our art for free. And I say to them, well, are you going to give that art away or are you going to sell it? Oh, no, we're going to sell it. Well, then why should we as a council or as ratepayers pay for something so you can make money out of it by not contributing towards it yourself? So I'm not saying that they should pay the full amount, but it's user pays. So if they want to have a display on, if it's art, if it's music, if it's dance, if it's a car show, if it's a bike show, it's all art. I mean, I'm a petrol head from way back, so a nice car is just as much a piece of art to me as Van Gogh or something that we saw over in Europe when we were there. It's all about art, and it should be a user pay point of view as well. So, as I say, they need to contribute up with some sort of money, and we'll match as well. But as Mark said, we've got a lot of venues that are being underused. We can use them for little cost. Just let people set up their displays. In Hamilton, we've seen displays, artist displays, just down on the side of the road, or in parks or that sort of thing. People, artists painting pictures and having them there for sale. There's all sorts of different things you can do to think outside the square, but it needs to be a partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. David Payne, please.
The Lenlai is a big interest thing at the moment, I think. And a commercial manager there, change of attitude. There is a problem that arts people like art and we like money, I think, is the sort of conflict. And but if you combine the two things there, it is possible to get it at least costing less, if not actually cost profit equal. The other problem with the other venues and the other activities is that the cost of running them is so high, and a lot of it is health and safety, council rules, got to have so many these things and that things. And, doing a show at the Bowl of Brooklands must be a nightmare. The amount of infrastructure you have to put in and pay for as a promoter. I'm not familiar with the detail, but ask yourself, why did they put Waimet off this year? It's cost of running it primarily. So council has a role in monitoring some of that and bringing it down perhaps so that it makes it more favourable to people to operate. And the idea, it's a bit like Craig was mentioning, the idea that art can be done for free is really kind of a bit corny, isn't it? Why should that be so? I know traditionally artists don't make anything in their life. It's once they die that their art becomes popular. But there's ways that we can do it and help the processes around costs of running shows, I think.
Thank you, David. Tina Koch, please.
I'm going to agree with some of the comments that have been said. I think we do need to look at what venues we currently have that can be better utilised to support arts and culture. We do have the Bowl of Brooklands. Of course, yes, very expensive. I know myself and putting on events what paperwork and health and safety and things that we have to go through. But I think we need to be looking at what we've got locally. We have some amazing artists, we have some amazing cultural groups, dance groups, and we need to be looking at those locally. Again, getting out there and talking with people, going, how can we support you? User pays, very important as well. Looking at the things we have currently, like our arts trail, which is hugely popular, and looking at how else can we diversify that. Just thinking sometimes out of the box. We have some amazing places in New Plymouth CBD currently. We've got little art galleries where I know lots of artists have their artwork up, places like the Collaboration. Same with the market. We have vendors coming from all around Taranaki to show their wares. So sometimes it is just thinking outside the box. And one example I can think of is actually when we had Te Matatini here. We also had Tania Niwa, who put up her amazing art installation at Pukeariki Landing. So yes, sometimes this will cost us, but I think if we get together with the groups and actually look at, what groups can support each other, it's not about working in isolation. It's about getting together as a community. Oh, another bell. I think there is plenty that we can do to support our cultural groups, our arts in the region. It's just thinking outside the box. Thank you.
Thank you. Kerry Vossler, please.
Right, well, I think everybody will agree with me what an absolutely amazing building Len Lai is housed in. So Len Lai, we are told, is an internationally renowned artist. So how about thinking outside the square? And Len Lai goes on tour occasionally. And when Len Lai's on tour, why can't we bring alternate artists into town? So you go to, and this is like talking way above the highball, is you go down to Te Papa in Wellington and they have Picasso or they have Rembrandt or whatever. Well, I'm sure that there must be artists who maybe aren't quite as incredibly expensive as to bring in their art, but we could do it in New Plymouth. It would bring a lot of people into the district, which would support lots and lots of different industries, hospitality, accommodation, etc. Another thing that I like the idea of personally is things like footpath art, and then have a week of it and get people from all over New Zealand. I don't know if you've ever seen any of the footpath art, but sometimes you look at it and you think there's a jolly great hole in the ground or something. Somebody's drawn something, and that talent is out there. If we bring it to New Plymouth, we've got all the amazing art on all the buildings. If we start promoting these things and getting people into town, I think that Taft has done an amazing job with WOMAD over the years. I think it's just become tired lately. But Taft has all of the infrastructure for bringing things into the Bowl of Brooklands. So maybe Taft gets utilised and maybe sponsored a wee bit from New Plymouth District Council to start bringing in some more shows, acts to come along to the Bowl and bring more people into town.
Thank you, Kerry. Damon Fox, please.
Yeah, look, I think we need to end our obsession with Len Lai. He's like the one artist, I suppose, that's gained some international recognition, and so we kind of just, we really double down on him. As a child, it was, it's where you went to for a school trip, and for the first couple of times, I suppose it was interesting. But there's only so long you can look at bendy metal before it gets a bit redundant. It's the same with music. There's some artists who I love their songs, but I don't want to listen to the same artist or song, mind you, over and over again. So I think we need to maybe, look at some alternative options. That being said, like the Len Lai Centre, it can't continue to run at over $100,000 a week. It's ridiculous. It's such a big space too. You walk in and, you could fit in at least another story or two in there and perhaps make it a shared space. People are talking about, let's just reduce it down to the weekend. I don't think, a bad idea is a bad idea. Reducing it doesn't stop it from being a bad idea. So I think we seriously need to look at that. Maybe it's moving our art into Pukeariki, using some of the space there. But, the way that it's running, it's not sustainable, and I don't think it's smart. As far as like breaking even, look, 99.9% of musicians, artists out there would love to at least break even, right? They're losing money. And so if anyone here could say, like, how do we break even or for certain make money out of art, we'd all be very wealthy individuals, but we can't keep going on the way that we do. And I think we're okay with losing a bit of money, not that much, but if it actually serves the community, like the swimming pools, libraries, stuff like that. And I think art's the same. If it's, if it's serving the wider general population, then that's fine. But currently it's not. Cheers.
Thank you, Damon. Steve Francis, please.
Very interesting question using break-even point for art and culture. I think we've got a very vibrant art and culture sector in Taranaki. Te Matatini we've talked about already. We've got so many art galleries. They're all breaking even or making profits. I'm part of the Ultimate Frisbee community where there's a national Ultimate Frisbee tournament here every year that breaks even, makes a bit of money for the local team. There's so much that's going on already, so I don't think it's a huge problem. My wife's an artist, she doesn't make a ton of money, but I know that there's a lot of organisations around art and culture in the very broad sense of the term that do very, very well. So some of them are supported by some grassroots funding from council or other organisations. And I think as well, if you look at breakdown of break-even point, it's costs versus the benefits. If you extrapolate the benefits and think, well, are they economic benefits to hotels, to the well-being of the people, then there's a lot of culture that really touches people's hearts and makes them feel well. So don't take too much of a narrow definition. This is coming from an ex-finance director. Don't take too much of a narrow definition of what benefits are. I know that the Gavette Brewster Art Gallery in Lenlai is a very contentious topic. I've been in there a couple of times recently, and I must say, in all of the events I go to in Taranaki, that's probably been the broadest cross-section of society from a demographic, socioeconomic point of view. I was quite surprised. I think there are probably ways of potentially doing it a little bit better, and maybe the aquatic centre is user pays. Maybe there is a way of bringing in a user pays that allows access to ratepayers, but also makes people contribute to the cost of it a little bit as well. Be reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Gina Blackburn, please.
Well, what can I add that hasn't already been shared by all my wonderful candidates sitting on this stage? What do arts and culture bring to our community? They bring life, they bring vibrancy, they bring excitement, they make this a place that's fun to live in. And in the doom and gloom of the world and all the negative things that are happening, sometimes it's nice just to have something pretty to look at. Do I think that they need to break even? I think that is subjective, and it depends on what type of event and what activity is being conducted. I look at the significant economic benefits to our region in terms of hosting events like WOMAD, like Americana, like Te Matatini, the Taranaki Gardens Festival, and the significant contribution they make towards employment and looking after our hospitality and retail sectors really well. In terms of the Lenlai, I think everything's been said about the Lenlai, to be fair. Does it need to rein its costs in? Yeah, it does. Does it contribute to us as a community in a positive way? Yeah, it does. Is his art for everyone? No, it's not. So I think in terms of the Lenlai, there are things that we can do practically and pragmatically to make it more efficient. But in terms of the other events and all the other things that contribute to making this a really cool place to live, again, subjective. Thank you.
I was talking to Katy Perry yesterday. If she comes to Auckland, she said she'll do 4 nights at the Bowl of Brooklands. Let's see what that does to New Plymouth. On a more serious note, thank you so much to the candidates. It's just been fantastic to get to know you all a lot better. Thank you for giving up your time. Thank you for stepping forward. And look forward to seeing a number of you elected, and if the audience would show their appreciation, please. I'll now hand over to Sheridan to close. Thank you.
Just one more time, just so the voters can remember, starting at the far end with Steve, can we just have your name and the ward you're standing for? Tina. Kerry.
Damon Fox, Kaitake Ngamotu.
Wayne Williamson, District Wide.
Okay, thank you for that. Once again, we want to say a really big thank you to all the candidates who are here tonight. We've had a mix of fairly serious questions, which can be a bit testing for people new to the council system, but you've all come well prepared to face your possible new venture with the NPDC. We really appreciate you going through this process and engaging with tonight's audience. So another round of applause, please. And to Peter, our moderator, thank you so much for moderating for us, not just tonight, but for 4 of our events. Kevin just wanted to hand a little something to you.
Yeah, well, 5 nights, and he only missed one, and he was away because he got presented with the Accountancy Fellowship, was it? It's like knighthood for accountants. Yeah, so it's very, very proud. And Peter, I'd just like to, on behalf of the Ratepayers Alliance, to accept a wee token of our appreciation. Thank you very, very much for helping us. And just like everyone else, they're all volunteers and giving up their time to bring the message to you, the ratepayers.
Okay, so again from there to Alex with the spot on timing for all of the events, and our video man, once again, thank you. And thank you to the audience for joining us tonight. We hope you have enjoyed meeting the second group of new candidates. So a round of applause to you. And a mention to the audience who will be watching this series of videos from home. We hope people enjoy all the questions and content we have put together and find it helpful to make their voting decisions. So now our events are over, how to go about making your voting decisions. Read the profiles for all the candidates on our website. There is a link from those profiles for each candidate to the NPDC website page where they have answered questions. These NPDC questions tell you a bit more about how candidates stand on certain issues. We have answers to a survey we've sent to all the candidates on our website for those that have come back to us, and if you haven't yet, you still can. This also shows how candidates stand on a variety of issues. Access to the survey results will be available from mobile phones by the end of this week. They're not available at the moment, they're not working properly, but they'll be fixed by the end of the week. Check all of this information before you vote so you really get to know all the candidates. Please grab business cards or flyers so you have our website and contact details, and also if you want to pass that information on to others, so grab that on the way out. As this is the last event with our supporters before the election, we thought we'd take the opportunity to mention the amazing support we have had to get to this point with our 2025 campaign. Many of our contributors have not wanted personal recognition, but we know, you will know who you are when we say thank you for all your support. From the start with our logo and website design, through to the recent additions for the election information, we have had terrific support and patience with helping us to learn and grow in web design. To the developer in Auckland who helped with the additions this year, with no connection to New Plymouth, we appreciated the free time he gave us as he wanted to help us with our cause. The exceptional offers we have had with printing, design, advertising, venue hire from multiple sources, we literally could not have achieved what we have without this incredible support. Every time we asked if we could get support to get our message out, multiple companies across New Plymouth came to our aid. To the 40 volunteers who delivered our flyers to letterboxes and businesses in and out of town, we were totally amazed with the support, and in an environment where you are battling local and central government issues that are very challenging, this aspect of our journey really helped us to see the word community is still alive and well with many people living in New Plymouth. To the many people who responded to our appeals for donations, To the people who have paid us $1 every week since we started, to those also able to spare much higher amounts, we could have not designed and delivered the campaign we have without this amazing help. And to our team, what a journey so far. Every single one of us has been challenged in one way or another through our time in the last year. And often we have challenged each other to deliver the best we can. We have had many moments of laughter and humour, many moments of utter disbelief and despair, one or two, very tasty baking at most meetings, but we've also grown stronger and more organised as a unit the longer we've been operating. I want to say a really big thank you to all of the team for all that you've contributed over this time. Just another reminder, the Daily News has a mural debate at the TSB Showplace on the 25th of September, for anyone who's interested in that one. Tickets are available from Event Finder. But the journey isn't quite over yet. Everybody who has attended these events, all the people who will see this on video, and all the people connecting with our Facebook and website have the job of placing a majority of 8 candidates around the table on the 11th of October who will stop the spending and reduce the debt. It is so important for all of you people, all of the people watching the video, to get voters to look at these candidates and find out what they're about and what they will do for our city if voted in. This group of new candidates who are here tonight and the other new candidates we met on the 4th of September will contain those 8+ new councillors. We wish all of you here tonight the very best with your campaigns. And once again, thank you so much for coming tonight. Is that?
I think that's just about a wrap.
It is.
And we're pretty much on time. Oh, we're a little bit late. But never mind, we're all young people, so we don't mind a late night. Once again, thank you very, very much. And this is our last event. But as Ratepayers Alliance, we're still hard at it, asking those questions and getting the message to you. Thank you very, very much for attending.
Thanks for coming, everyone.